Well, good evening at the beginning of a new week. It doesn't get any easier, does it? But never fear, we will keep you up to date here. Actually, that rhymes, doesn't it? Wasn't deliberate. A week tomorrow, there's an American presidential election. As with many things these days, you'd be struggling to know the truth if you relied on large swathes of the media. Since the day Trump was elected, there has been an unrelenting campaign to remove him from office by whatever means his opponents can get their hands on. And if that includes riots and protests and anarchy and dishonesty, so be it. There's a massive stake here for Australia. Biden, who can barely open his mouth without giving the appearance that the miracle is he's actually standing up, is talking about decarbonising America's electricity system. The same rubbish that we have here. Net zero carbon dioxide emissions for the entire economy. But Biden's ambitions go beyond America. He wants to integrate his climate policy into US foreign trade and national security strategies, so he will demand countries like Australia ramp up their domestic climate targets. It puts cheap energy into the waste bin. We had this so-called debate on Friday. It defies belief that anyone could believe, with the most fertile imagination, that Biden won the encounter. To watch these two people, one of whom will be voted tomorrow week to lead the Western world, and to think that person could be Biden should give us cause for real concern. Have a look at Biden's form at the debate last Friday.
Climate change and climate warming, the global warming, is an existential threat to humanity. 4 more years of this man eliminating all the regulations that were put in by us to clean up the climate, to limit the limit of emissions. We're going to invest in, for example, 50,000 charging stations on our highways. We're going to be in a position where we're going to see to it that we're going to take 4 million existing buildings and 2 million existing homes. I do rule out banning fracking because the answer we need other industries.
I think, to use the language of the former Speaker in the House of Commons, the man needs some medicament, I think. Trump's two most recent outstanding speeches, and he tried to insert these observations into his answers on Friday. His two most important recent speeches were last month at a conference on US history at Washington's National Archives, when he argued correctly, and I quote, "The left-wing rioting and mayhem are the direct result of decades of left-wing indoctrination in our schools," unquote. He was right when he said that schools and universities were teaching, and I quote, "young Americans that America was a wicked and racist nation," unquote. You'll note the subjects chosen for the so-called debate, all part of the left-wing agenda: COVID, race, climate change. COVID, where 0.06% of Americans have died, not from it, but with it. They won't tell us how many people have died from it. And race, we've got it here, teaching our kids, to use Donald Trump's words, that we are a wicked and racist nation. Trump argued at the same conference, and I quote, "American parents are not going to accept indoctrination in our schools." Donald Trump said, "American parents are not going to accept," he repeated himself, "indoctrination in our schools, cancel culture at work, or the repression of traditional faith, culture and values in the public square, not anymore." Well, I'd have to if Biden wins. The hard left are in the ascendant. Biden won the debate? You are kidding me. Only someone consumed with left-wing ideological nonsense could come to such a ridiculous conclusion. Trump spoke for the world at Mount Rushmore on July 4, when he spoke there, as here, quote, "a merciless campaign to wipe out our history, defame our heroes, erase our values, and indoctrinate our children," unquote. I've said before, that is the language of a leader. We heard it on Friday. And that's why this election is not just about America. Trump rightly argued, and I quote, "there is a new far-left fascism that demands absolute allegiance. If you don't follow its demands, you'll be censured and punished." He said that's not going to happen to us. Said Trump, quote, "we will not be tyrannised. We will never surrender the spirit of July 4, 1776, unquote. Well, look out, because the left are coming. Indeed, without Trump, they're already here. Now, under there was a little talk about the economy, though Biden promised all sorts of things, all for free, to which Trump rightly argued, well, if these things are important to you now, what did you and Obama do for 8 years? Pre-pandemic, Trump had created 7 million new jobs in America. The average unemployment rate was lower than that of any administration in the history of America. African-American youth unemployment was at an all-time low. African-American poverty had declined to the lowest rate ever recorded. The unemployment rate for women was the lowest in almost 70 years. When asked about racism, Trump argued simply he was the least racist person in the room. To overcome racial equality, you get people jobs. Trump's done that. And yet here is a man, Biden, having his fourth shot at the presidency, immersed, to use the word loosely, in awful scandals associated with his son. In a statement to reporters in Nashville, Tennessee on Friday, our time, one Anthony Bobulinski said that in 2017, Hunter Biden consulted his father about a planned venture with the Chinese oil company CEFC, China Energy Company. Mr. Bobulinski said he was rankled by Joe Biden's public statements that he never discussed the international business activities of Hunter and other family members. Bobulinski was a partner in the deal. Little of that has been reported. Yet the left-wing media are talking about Trump needing a knockout blow. There are legitimate concerns about material on Hunter Biden's hard drives, which suggests that should Joe Biden win, he could be compromised by Chinese Communist Party blackmail. Nonetheless, as with Twitter and Facebook, in relation to Trump, the Biden stuff has been censured. And of course, Trump's opponents talk about a divided America. Who has really divided America? Not one Democrat showed up for his inauguration except for the Clintons and Barack Obama. And Trump had barely been inaugurated and media began talks about an impeachment campaign. The negativity has continued. Proof of this lies in the extraordinary statement that Biden made in the debate that he shut down the oil industry. Listen to this.
False.
Would you close down the oil industry?
By the way, I would transition from the oil industry, yes.
Oh,
I will
that's
transition.
a big statement.
It is a big statement.
That's a
because
big statement.
I would stop.
Why would you do that?
Because the oil industry pollutes significantly.
I see.
Here's the deal. But
That's
you
a
can't
big
do that.
statement.
Well, if you let me finish the statement, because it has to be replaced by renewable energy over time. Over time. And I'd stop giving to the oil industry, I'd stop giving them federal subsidies. He won't give federal subsidies to the gas, excuse me, to solar and wind.
Yeah.
Why are we giving it to oil industry?
We actually do give
All right.
it to solar and wind.
We
And
have
that's
one
maybe the
final
biggest
question.
statement in terms of business. That's the biggest statement.
Okay.
Because
We have
basically
one
what he's
final
saying
question,
is he is
Mr.
going to
President.
destroy the oil industry.
Okay.
Will you remember that, Texas? Will you
Okay.
remember that, Pennsylvania, Oklahoma?
Vice President Biden, let me give you 10 seconds to respond, and then I have to get to the final.
See, in any campaign, if the reporting was objective, that is a game changer. It's hard to believe the average American, as Doug Hurst from Chapman in the ACT wrote at the weekend, quote, "My bet is the average American will vote against the prospect of scarcer, dearer fuel and reliance again on foreign suppliers." Doug Hurst is right. One other statistic is significant in this campaign. The polling giant Gallup recently posed the simple question to a significant sample of Americans: how do you feel after 4 years of Donald Trump? 56% of Americans said they were better off than they were 4 years ago. On the same question at the same time, Barack Obama was on 45%, George W. Bush on 47%. They were both given a second term. As well as Caroline Overington recently wrote, and I quote, "Trump's unwillingness to wade into messy and unwinnable wars has produced the most peaceful presidency in recent history. The lives of thousands of Hispanic and black American soldiers have been saved in the process," unquote. Biden didn't win the debate on Friday, other than in the minds of the left-wing Trump haters. And I suspect Biden won't win on Tuesday week. Your say matters. What do you think? Trump is holding the fort against those who want to teach our youngsters that we're a wicked and racist nation. Trump's holding the fort against what he described as a merciless campaign to wipe out our history, defame our heroes, erase our values and indoctrinate our children. What do you reckon? Alan at skynews.com.au or the text line 0414 000 848. And of course, you can listen live on the iHeart Radio app. It's Monday, October 26.